Number 10, Red Skull. Yeah, I bet you never thought you'd see the day. Obviously, this one ranks so low on the list because of, well, just how despicable this whole thing is, despite the fact that it actually makes for quite an interesting story. Red Skull becoming Captain America and later President of the United States happens, of course, in a what-if story. Where else would this happen? In this what-if, following the end of World War II, both Hitler and Red Skull are believed to have been defeated, but dun dun dun, Red Skull actually survived. Making sure that Steve Rogers was lost at sea after the war was won, Red Skull plotted to manipulate people under the guise of Steve Rogers himself. Red Skull transferred his mind into a clone of Rogers and set about impersonating him, using Rogers' trustworthy reputation and influence to his advantage. Eventually, the real Captain America, however, did return and would end up putting a stop to evil President Red Skull Cap and his army of super soldiers. I feel like anytime you have a Captain America that's like, I'm gonna make an army of super soldiers, you should probably be suspicious of that Cap, because I feel like that's not a thing that Steve would normally do. Number 9, Clark Kent. But not exactly the Clark Kent you're thinking of. In the Amalgam universe, Clark Kent is a normal human who ends up becoming an alternate version of Captain America, known as Super Soldier, after he is given a serum that was created from the blood of an alien baby who crash-landed on planet Earth. Also, I feel like it's really weird that they took an alien baby's blood and made a serum with it. But I digress. This is a pretty dark story in my opinion. While this version might not hold the title of Captain America, he definitely looks the part, well, minus his S for Super Soldier shield, and is meant to be like a version of both Captain America and Superman combined, cause amalgam. He also comes with his own villains such as Green Skull and Lex Luthor, who in this world is actually the head of Hydra. Hail Hydra, says Lex Luthor. Alright friends, before we move on to this next point, if you are enjoying hearing about all these different people that have been Captain America, feel free to give this video a thumbs up and show it. Number 8, James Newman. James Newman became Captain America for a brief moment in time, or really it's more like Captain America took hold of him, I guess. In the alternate reality of Earth 7116, Captain America finds himself rapidly aging and dying. As he loses his strength, he decides to work with specialists and participate in a sort of experiment that allows him to reach out like a sort of Force ghost to other military groups. Even after he passes on, Captain America's ghost is seen by James Newman and him alone while serving in Afghanistan. Cap helps to bolster James's courage and strength when he needs it most, helping him to believe in himself and to perform heroic actions. After escaping a cave-in, Newman finds himself in the middle of an ambush, and Captain America possesses him briefly in order to help Newman not only survive, but defeat his attackers, leading Newman to state that he believes there's a bit of Captain America in all of us. Aw, what a sweet moral. You can be a hero too. It's true though, if you actually just were like, hey, I'm gonna be a hero today and do good things, you can do that. You should do that. Everyone should be a hero for a day every now and then. It's a nice way to help people out. Number 7, Cyclops. That's right, in the alternate future of what appears to be the Ultimate Universe, known as Earth 81122, an alternate of an alternate, we get an alternate Scott Summers and Jean Grey and Steve Rogers, who all find themselves at one point without powers. Rogers, in losing his powers, also ends up rapidly aging and dies. After his death, it was basically left to Scott Summers to take up the mantle, allowing the name of Captain America to live on, albeit briefly, because he dies. Scott dies. Scott Cap. Captain Scott Summers. Captain Scott Summers of America. Number 6, Roberta Mendez. One of the 2099 versions of Captain America. Roberta Mendez became Captain America unwillingly after her husband dosed her with the super soldier serum, kind of against her will. In fact, Roberta didn't even know she was Captain America, as Cap and Roberta were actually basically two separate personas, residing in the same body. Trigger words are usually deployed here to manipulate Roberta's mental state into switching between her Cap persona and just her everyday Roberta persona. This version of Captain America is part of Alchemax's Avengers and is believed to have the same level of durability and strength as her 616 counterpart, Steve Rogers. Number 5, The Punisher. That's right, in Marvel's marvelous world of what ifs, anything is possible, including a world where Frank Castle ends up being chosen to be Captain America instead of Steve Rogers. He does eventually get carried away like we are so used to seeing him do and attempt to go on a murder murderous rampage, but in the end is reined in by none other than Steve himself, who reminds him that he is a role model for all of America and that he basically has to be better. When Castle offers the mantle of Captain America to Rogers himself, he actually refuses, saying that Frank needs to be Cap because he is a living, mortal man, which makes him, I guess, more relatable to the American people, because in this reality, Rogers is a cyborg. I guess we can't relate with cyborgs. I feel like that's a weird lesson. So yeah, Frank stays on as Captain America, and Steve goes on to fight crime as the Captain. Cyborgs can't be Captain America. How dare they? Number 4, Roscoe Simmons. Steve Rogers hasn't always been Captain America, and there have been a few times that his frustration with the government and the politics that sometimes comes along with the name has caused him to escape into another mantle, leaving the Captain America name and looking for someone to step in and replace him during his absence. Roscoe Simmons was a promising candidate given the seal of approval by Steve Rogers himself, who at the time was operating under the name Nomad, which you might remember from the MCU, because there's kind of a little Nomad reference in there. Falcon, Sam Wilson, even trained Simmons himself, but expressed concern as to if Simmons was really prepared enough to be Captain America. Falcon was worried that Roscoe might not only be hurt in the line of duty, but may even wind up dead. And he was right to be worried about that, turns out, because that is exactly what happened. When Red Skull learned that the Captain America he was facing was not in fact Steve Rogers, but his replacement, Roscoe Simmons, in a rage, he killed Simmons, seeking also to teach Rogers a lesson in the process about attempting to find a replacement and leave his mantle. Red Skull's like, "You're my nemesis and you can never do anything else." Red Skull crucified Simmons and tortured him to death. Roscoe's death did inspire Steve to return as Captain America, despite his continuing frustration with the government. Roscoe Simmons, R.I.P. I feel bad for Roscoe Simmons. Number 3, John Walker. John Walker was the man chosen to replace Captain America after he quit, more permanently this time. Captain America decided to leave the mantle behind when he no longer felt it was a good idea to be working for the government, who at the time were quite corrupt. Although Steve Rogers would continue to operate as a hero, he wouldn't be able to use the name of Captain America, as, well, it technically belonged to the federal government. Instead, he would become known as the Captain, and the US government would recast the heroic role of Captain America. John Walker ended up being the man they chose, who proved to be a much more violent and ruthless Captain America in comparison to Rogers, having no qualms about killing those who got in his way. In the end, Rogers was able to convince Walker of his misdeeds and even helped him to reform. Walker ended up giving the mantle back to Steve and would go on to become the redemption-seeking hero, US agent. Number 2, Bucky Barnes. Also known as the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes was originally Captain America's young sidekick from way back in 1941. For years we thought Bucky was dead until Ed Brubaker brought him back as Russia's brainwashed operative and later on, by extension, Hydra's brainwashed assassin, where we'd come to know him as Winter Soldier. Fortunately, Captain America was able to give Bucky back his true mind and memories using the Cosmic Cube, and Bucky then set out on a mission of atonement, before being tossed into the position of Captain America himself, after Cap was suspected of being dead after being shot by a time-traveling bullet during the events of Civil War. True story. Bucky would take up Cap's shield, costume, and the name himself temporarily. Eventually, he would return to his Winter Soldier mantle after he was put on trial for the crimes that he'd committed in his former life, which honestly tend to have a way of coming back to haunt him no matter what good he does. I feel like Bucky's always haunted by those old Winter Soldier days. But that's fair, it's probably pretty traumatizing. Number 1, Falcon. Falcon was the chosen successor for the Captain America title in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with an elderly Steve Rogers who went back in time to live out his life with Peggy, passing on the shield to his friend Sam Wilson at the end of Endgame. And I guess near the end of his life, he was pretty old there. We don't know if this is something that will stick in the MCU, but in the comics, Sam Wilson has already stepped into Steve's shoes, serving as Captain America after Steve found himself rapidly aged. The major difference between Sam and Steve's approach to being Captain America is that Rogers preferred to stay out of politics, whereas Wilson believes that it's actually his duty to get involved in them. I personally think in the MCU what's going to happen is we're going to have US Agent, who's going to be the person that the government picks, and then Sam Wilson, they're going to be like, we don't care that Captain America passed the shield on to you. It's our mantle, we do what we want. But hopefully the government will come around and then Sam will get to be Captain America again. Or he'll convince John Walker like Steve did. Anyways, you're not coming here to hear my theories on Sam Wilson's future in the MCU, but that's what I think. Number 10, Hugo Strange. Is there anything scarier than the image of Hugo Strange as Batman? While you might be a bit surprised to hear this one, fans of the classic detective comics of the 70s surely will not be. This plot was part of a story arc that began with issue 471 and shouldn't seem that surprising to those who are familiar with Hugo Strange's obsession with Batman. Strange went further than the Joker did recently in Joker War with his plot though. He might not have had Bruce's millions, but in a plot to take over as Batman, he impersonated Bruce Wayne, who he found out was Batman, and committed crimes all over Gotham while under the guise of Bruce's Batman. He also fashioned his own suit, Batcave, and even created his own Robin and Alfred. Now that is commitment. Number 9, Tim Fox. During DC's Future State, we see a new mysterious Batman appear on the scene and take up the mantle. Except not too mysterious, as it's really been talked about a ton as to who would be this new mystery Batman prior to even issue 1 of the next Batman's release. It's none other than Tim Fox. As of issue 2, we still don't really know exactly what events went down to lead Luke's estranged brother Tim, or as he prefers to be called, Jace, to take up the mantle, but we can guess what might have inspired him. Likely, like Batman, a lack of justice and a personal loss. His sister is actually currently in a coma, and while others seem to actually blame the masks for her predicament, it seems like Jace actually feels more inspired to don a mask himself, the mask in fact, in Batman's absence, following what was believed to be Batman's death. I gotta say, with each issue, I'm actually warming more to the idea of Jace's Batman, who also appears in the Future State Justice League as well, and I absolutely love his costume. Number 8, AZREAL. Following the events of Nightfall, Batman was left broken by Bane, and Bruce Wayne as such was forced to hang up the cowl while he worked towards recovery, trying to fix his broken back. For his replacement, he chose Jean-Paul Valley, aka AZREAL. AZREAL would prove to be an interesting choice in the long run. Initially, he appeared to be a passionate and fearsome fit, but he ended up taking things too far, brutally attacking the criminals who opposed him in a more violent and drastic fashion when compared with Bruce's Bat. He also became obsessed with being Batman to the point that Bruce Wayne, upon his return, was actually forced to fight AZREAL in order to make him give back the mantle. Number 7, Thomas Wayne. Our Flashpoint Batman ends up being none other than Batman's father, as in this alternate reality, young Bruce Wayne is the victim of that fateful mugging instead of his parents. And if you thought Bruce was living in the darkest timeline as Batman, Flashpoint would like to remind you that you are sorely mistaken. Things could always be a lot more dark than even our main continuity Batman. Thomas Wayne as Batman not only has to deal with the loss of his son, but also the fact that this loss drives his wife completely insane, turning her into Batman's #1 enemy, the Joker. And when they both find out there is a reality where their son lives, becomes Batman, and they actually died, both Flashpoint Martha Joker and Thomas Batman agree that whatever it takes, that reality needs to be saved. And before we move on to this next spot, just a quick little reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you love Batman as much as I love Batman, and who doesn't love Batman? Number 6, Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne becomes Batman in an alternate future where the first to inherit the mantle, Nightwing, Dick Grayson, has actually died. This ends up changing Damian, who believes killing may actually be necessary again in some cases moving forward. Hated by many as Batman, Damian does his best to protect Gotham with any means necessary. Damian also filled in for his father at one time in the main continuity when Bruce Wayne was unable to patrol. Young Damian told his father not to worry, as he would sub in as Batman for the evening in his father's absence. Number 5, Helena Wayne. I have always loved Helena Wayne and the idea of Batman and Catwoman having a daughter together to live on and uphold their legacy, which is why I love Helena Wayne stepping into the role of Batman, even if we only got to see her do so for like one issue. In the final issue of Earth 2 Society, we see Helena Wayne become the Batman with her own Robin even as her sidekick. I love that Helena decides to leave the name as is, seeing it as a symbol of hope and as a legacy that she is proud to be a part of. I also love that her Robin is actually Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's son, John. So cute. Earth 2 is neat. Number 4, Jason Todd. In Battle for the Cowl, we see the Robins kind kind of battle it out for the right to become the next Bat, after Batman is believed dead following a fight with Darkseid, sort of. In reality, everyone wants Dick Grayson to become the new Batman for the most part, but he refuses. This leads to Jason Todd impersonating Batman and donning the cape and cowl, armed with guns, as is usually his thing. Jason Todd proves to be a lethal and deadly version of Batman, who ends up taking out almost all who oppose him with bullets. Pew pew. Number 3, Tim Drake. After Jason takes up the mantle of Batman and starts actively defending his new role, Tim Drake attempts to stop him. Since Nightwing actually refuses to become Batman, he himself decides to take a stab at it. Using his brilliant mind, he is able to track down Jason as Batman, who is hiding out in his own weird version of the Batcave. Or, not really hiding out, more like lying in wait. When Bat Tim confronts him, Bat Jason also ends up taking him out. Fortunately, in the end, Nightwing does show up to defeat Jason, and Damian Wayne and Squire actually show up to save Tim Bat just in the nick of time, as everything's collapsing. Number 2, Terry McGinnis. Of course, I cannot have a list of non-Bruce Wayne Batmans without mentioning the one, Terry McGinnis. Terry McGinnis is actually the genetic son of Bruce due to the scheming of Amanda Waller. Realizing that Batman was getting on in years and seeking to make the perfect replacement for him, she started Project Batman Beyond, which the animated show that Terry appears in takes its name from. Waller found the perfect psychological matches to Bruce's parents, and without them knowing, managed to actually rewrite the reproductive DNA of the male of that couple. Later on, Terry was born, making him the genetic son of Bruce Wayne, despite his biological parents being Mary and Warren McGinnis. Waller even attempted to have his parents assassinated, attempting to create similar conditions to Bruce Wayne's upbringing, and hoping to inspire Terry to become a vigilante and begin training at a young age, with his parents' death. However, the assassination plot fell through, so instead, Terry grew up with his parents alive. They had a second son and would later divorce. Warren, though, would end up being murdered, which would inspire Terry to become Batman and lead to a team-up and crime-fighting partnership between him and Bruce. Number 1, Dick Grayson. I mean, you knew he was going to be number 1, right? Following the events of Battle of the Cowl, Dick finally accepts the role of Batman, taking up the mantle for himself and replacing Bruce. Dick Grayson is usually seen as the legacy Batman, the heir to the Bat that we all kind of expect, as he was the first Robin. Even though Damian Wayne is Batman's biological son, Dick still often plays the role of oldest sibling and firstborn under the wing of the Bat, so it makes sense that he would be the one to inherit that title when Batman is believed dead. However, in the end, it would be revealed that Batman actually wasn't actually dead, but was simply blasted into the past, and that the body they initially believed was his was only that of one of Granny Goodness's clones of him. Eventually, Batman would return, and Dick would end up returning to his superhero mantle of Nightwing once more.
And at 10, Wolverine and Elektra. On Earth 982, Rena was the new girl at high school, where some of the more popular girls tried to make her life miserable, stating that she was the daughter of an immigrant and an unemployed biker. However, when her father Logan ended up picking her up from school on his bike, opinions changed about her, especially when they learned that her mother Elektra was a wealthy martial arts expert. Yeah, it's kind of funny how those things will just change like that. However, life at high school wasn't just about dealing with the in-crowd. As Wild Thing, Rena had to save a classmate from a high-speed kidnapper, defeat a computerized assassin, stop a demonic invader, and even fight one of her teachers when he was turned into a Prime Sentinel. But then again, that's just high school. Another Sky High reference for those of you keeping track. Rena first appeared in J2 number 5 in 1998 and was created by Ron Lim and Tom DeFalco, even if technically she was created by Logan and Elektra. And at 9, Clint Barton and She-Hulk. On Earth 9811, Clint Barton Jr. was the son of two Avengers, Clint Barton aka Hawkeye and Jennifer Walters aka the She-Hulk, from an alternate reality where the heroes and villains assembled by the Beyonders to fight in a conflict known as the Secret Wars never left Battleworld, the patchwork planet created by the Beyonder for them to fight on. After the heroes and villains called a truce, many of them settled down to raise families in a portion of the city of Denver that formed part of the planet. When their children were in their late teens though, the son of Dr. Doom and Enchantress, Vincent, assembled a team of the other villains' children and battled the children of the heroes, including Mustang, until their parents intervened. Kinda like when a couple groups of kids get into a fight on a playground until their parents drag them home. Man, I love that parallel. Mustang apparently possessed some degree of superhuman strength and durability inherited from his mother, and it is possible that he was as strong as her. However, because his father was not superhuman and due to his young age, it's unknown. Although he is also a skilled marksman because his father's Hawkeye. And at 8, Human Torch and the Wasp. On that same Earth of 9811, Johnny Storm and Janet Van Dyne also had a son. Unlike his hot-headed father and assertive mother though, Matthew had more of a nervous personality. Like I said previously, when the children were in their late teens, Vincent, the son of Dr. Doom and Enchantress, assembled a team of the villains and battled the children of the heroes, including Firefly, until their parents intervened. After the altercation though, the heroes' children used a device created by the Hulk to travel back to Earth. However, they arrived on an alternate Earth where the Sentinels ruled America, and they had wiped out most of the planet's mutants and superhumans. After defeating one of the robots, the kids decided that they had a purpose: to rid this world of the Sentinels. Matthew has the powers of both of his parents: pyrokinesis, flight, and shrinking because of Pym particles. Matt can also produce blasts made of solar energy that heats up one's molecules to the extent that the person will be incinerated. His powers also come from the sun or some other heated cosmic force. And if he exerts himself too much, he will actually be left powerless, which I think being small would help with, because like you don't have to punch as hard because it's like all that force concentrated to one tiny area. And at 7, the Human Torch and Crystal. Unlike Earth 616, Earth 98 does not operate on a sliding time scale, and as such, the passage of time and the details of events have progressed much slower. In this reality, the modern age of heroes, which is identified as the birth of the Fantastic Four, occurred in the year 1961, whereas the Earth 616 universe currently measures the modern age as being in existence for about 14 years. On this world, the Human Torch renewed his romance with Crystal of the Inhumans. They had a child together named Ray. Ray grew up alongside his stepsister Luna, who grew up to be a rebellious teenager named Spike. That's funny, I know one of those. Raymond does not have powers like his father though, instead inheriting his inhuman mother's abilities. But he uses them to have powers like his father, since he manipulates energy and can change his shape. And at 6, Black Cat and Agent Venom. On Earth 982, Felicity Hardy was the daughter of Spider-Man's former girlfriend and crime-fighting partner Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat, and his high school rival and later friend Flash Thompson, also known as Agent Venom. Felicia helped train her young daughter in gymnastics and martial arts, but when Felicia left Flash for her lesbian girlfriend, Felicity took it kinda hard, becoming resentful. Knowing that Felicia would be furious if Felicity became a costumed hero like her mother once was, Felicity sought out Spider-Girl, hoping that Spider-Girl would help take her on as a sidekick. Wearing Spider-Girl's costume, Felicity confronted her hero to prove that she would make a great crime fighter, even revealing that she knew Spider-Girl's secret identity as May Parker. Spider-Girl, however, refused to take a non-powered teenager into battle, which makes sense. But not dissuaded, Felicity began to look through old news reports involving Spider-Man and came across an article that showed Spider-Man fighting alongside his clone, Scarlet Spider. She quickly created a Scarlet Spider themed costume and once again tried to be a hero without powers. Halfway through into number 5, Franklin Richards and Rachel Summers. David Richards is the son of Franklin Richards and Rachel Summers until his parents were killed and he was taken by Sentinels. However, he had two destinies. He is destined as the most powerful mutant in this reality, since, you know, he's the son of literally the most powerful being in all of realities, and either he could be mentored by Sabretooth for life, or he could die. The reality hopping teams, the Exiles and Weapon X, arrived on David's world on a mission to liberate him from a Sentinel holding facility. Both teams battled the Sentinels guarding the facility and managed to find David. He was being held along with other mutant children. Not wanting to leave the fate of these children in the hands of the Sentinels, Blink decided to teleport the other children out as well. After that, Sabretooth and Blink received another mission from the Talus, which was unpleasant for them because it was to kill David in order to safeguard the reality. So, yeah. Should go read that. And at 4, Nightcrawler and the Scarlet Witch. The daughter of Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch of Earth 2182, Nocturne, inherited her father's blue fur, three-toed hands and feet, a tail, yellow eyes, and pointed ears. But as a third-generation mutant, however, Nocturne also developed her own abilities. Talia grew up with the X-Men, who at this time consisted of their team leader Wolverine, who would not engage in active combat as he was mortally injured, field leader Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, who was later in a chrono displacement accident and was replaced with her younger self just as she joined the X-Men, Thunderbird, Phoenix, the Phoenix Force inhabiting the empty body of Colossus, and Armageddon, the son of Apocalypse. More on that later. Nocturne became a full member of the team and was romantically involved with James Proudstar, and for a long time she lived in her father's shadow. And he trained her very hard, often at the expense of her feelings. But having proven her skills and ability against Armageddon, she was able to reconcile somewhat with her father. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Danielle Cage from Earth 15061 1951 is the Earth's Captain America. In the year 20XX, Daniel Cage became Captain America, having inherited the powers of both of her parents, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. She was also a member of the Avengers initiative, first appearing in Avengers Ultron Forever #1 in 2015. One day, during one of Manhattan's periodical floodings, the Golden Skull and his henchmen took advantage of the situation and stole several tanks full of helium. Captain America confronted them and easily took down the Skull's 2 henchmen. However, before she could knock out the villain, she was mysteriously surrounded and swallowed by a rectangle of energy. She was transported to a future universe, 400 years in the future to be exact, along with other heroes from other periods of time. A Jim Rhodes early into his career as an Iron Man, a Thor Odin's son cursed with immortality, the Thor who had temporarily replaced the original, a Hulk a few months into having become a monster, and a Black Widow and Vision from a period of time during which Danielle was a baby. Penultimately, in number 2, Tonya Parker and Clint Barton. You may think that the Ultimate Universe has messed up relationships, but wait until you hear about Earth 807128. The daughter of Peter Parker's youngest daughter, Tonya, and Hawkeye, Ashley Barton did not like the way the Kingpin was running Hammer Falls, so she formed a team of superheroes with her friends and attempted to take control of his territory, only to be captured and set to be executed. Her father broke her out of her cell, only to be shocked when Ashley killed the Kingpin to take over his territory for her own, using her newfound power to attempt to kill him as well. Logan rescued Hawkeye with his Spider-Mobile, and Ashley sent her men after them. Ashley eventually let go of her grudge and embraced her family legacy, calling herself Spider-Girl, and was recruited by the superior Spider-Man from Earth 616 to kill Karn, an individual who was hunting spider-themed people across the multiverse. First appearing in Wolverine Volume 3 number 67 in 2008, Peter Parker's granddaughter and the original Hawkeye had kids. Dear God! And finally, in number 1, Apocalypse and Jean Grey. Yeah, let that one sink in for a minute. Now before you flip out though and wonder how Jean Grey could get it on with Apocalypse, on Earth 2182, Armageddon was artificially created by Apocalypse through the genetic material of himself and Jean Grey to create the ultimate weapon. Ironically, he rejected Apocalypse's methods thanks to the Jean half of him overpowering the evil, and instead joined his worst enemies, Professor W's X-Men. He helped the X-Men to destroy his father, and although he had joined the X-Men, he never really felt like he fit in with them, but NIGHTCRAWLER assured him that his place was with the X-Men. He even helped the X-Men defeat the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants led by CYCLOPS. Armageddon first appeared in X-Men Millennial Visions number 1 from 2000.
Number 10, Helena Wayne, Earth 2. Before there was Helena Wayne of Earth 2, there was Helena Wayne of Earth 2. Are you confused yet? Are you watching this with subtitles? This version of Helena Wayne was the first child of Catwoman and Batman from Earth 2. The original Earth 2, cause yeah, there's 2 Earth 2s. Look, I don't know what to tell you, it's DC, it's confusing. The original Earth 2 that this Helena Wayne is from was one of the worlds destroyed during Crisis on Infinite Earths. We later would see Earth 2 brought back, but of course slightly different, and technically in a different continuity. But on this Earth 2 that we're talking about, Helena's mother died in a tragic accident when she was blackmailed into returning to a life of crime. This is in part what actually inspired Helena Wayne to fight crime herself, taking up the name Huntress and avenging her mother's death. She tracked down the man responsible and learned that the photo that he had used to blackmail her mother was actually a fake. It showed her mother killing a cop, but in truth, Catwoman had never done such a thing during her time as Catwoman. Huntress in this version of Earth 2 is known for being a skilled fighter, martial artist, and archer. She typically fights with batarangs or a crossbow. Number 9, Helena Wayne, Earth 2. This alternate version of Helena hails from the same reality as Power Girl, who is also her best friend. Helena on Earth 2 is the daughter of Catwoman and Batman. And to be clear, this is the Earth 2 that came after the previous Earth 2 that we just talked about. I hope everyone's following this. I hope you're following this. I wish I had drawn like a diagram for everyone. There's this Earth 2 and there's this Earth 2. Helena here initially fought alongside her father as his Robin. However, she ended up leaving her world in what she thought was the pursuit of Darkseid after her father was killed during a Parademon's attack. Helena had tried to save her dad but was unable to as the tower that he was in exploded, killing him. This version of Helena would spend a lot more time on Prime Earth with Power Girl, who took the name Karen Starr. The two would split up for a while but inevitably rejoin forces and find a way back to their Earth, their home. Back on Earth 2, Helena would take up up her father's mantle, eventually becoming the new Batman. And if you're wondering, wait, no, do you mean Batwoman? Did you say that wrong? No, I mean Batman. That is the name that she takes, Batman, just like her dad. Being trained by Batman, Helena has a bunch of skills as his and Catwoman's daughter. She's especially well known for her skills with a crossbow, as an investigator, her stealth, and her fighting prowess. Before becoming Batman while living on Prime Earth, Helena went by the hero name Huntress. All the Helena Waynes, all the Huntresses, all the Bat babies. Bat baby. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn more about Batman's kids, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. He's got a lot of cool kids, and I'd like to talk more about them. Number 8. Terry McGinnis. Terry is basically Batman in the future. He not only has Batman's genes, but was trained by the old man himself, and he also has future tech to aid him in his missions as well. You might not think of Terry McGinnis as Batman's son, considering, well, he has 2 other parents who raised him and brought him into the world. But Terry is also genetically related to Batman. Amanda Waller helped to create Terry into the man that he is today. She manipulated his father's DNA to make sure that when Terry was conceived, his genes would actually match Batman's, aka Bruce Wayne's. This all happened as part of Project Batman Beyond, which was all about building a new Batman to replace the former. Waller also almost had his parents assassinated to help give Terry motivation to become a hero, but Andrea Beaumont's Phantasm, who she hired to do that job, ended up refusing to go through with it. But don't worry, he still becomes Batman anyways. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any skills for me to talk about, I guess. Could you imagine if I just had like most powerful children of Batman and they were all like accountants or something? And I was like, this is a better accountant than the other one. Number 7. Tim Drake. Tim Drake is known for being probably one of the smartest children of Batman around. Although Tim had parents in the original continuity of New Earth, he was adopted by Bruce Wayne. So at least then and there he was considered an adoptive son. In the current continuity, his backstory hasn't become quite as tragic as the former, and I believe his parents are still alive in that reality. Although I think he's still considered Batman's adopted son there too. So he has parents, but he's also adopted? I don't know. While Tim might not be the best marksman or fighter of the bunch of Bat kids, he is definitely the most intelligent and best detective when it comes to living up to Batman's legacy. Does this make him the most powerful? I don't know, it can depend on the mission that he's got, I guess. I would argue that smarts is actually one of the most powerful things or skills you can possess when it comes to heroics, but many others often measure power in how hard you can hit. So even though I kinda wanna put Tim Drake higher on this list, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, but he's not the biggest muscles. Which is fine if that's how you measure power, but how do you measure power? I mean, there's lots of ways to measure it. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Number 6. Helena Wayne. Last rites Batman/Catwoman. I promise this is the last Helena on this list, although honestly I really do love a lot of what they do with all the Helena Waynes. I love Helena Wayne as a character, and I wish that she was part of the main continuity. Let Batman and Catwoman be together and let them give us a Helena Wayne. This is probably my favorite version of Helena thus far. She is the one that appears as the daughter of Catwoman and Batman in Last Rites and Tom King's Batman/Catwoman series. This version of Helena is really just, I think, a little bit of an improvement of the redo that we saw with her character from New 52's Earth 2. She also has the investigative skills of her mother and father and is a skilled fighter and acrobat. Helena Wayne here goes on to become Batwoman in honor of both of her parents. Also, if you're wondering how Kate Kane feels about that, because, you know, that's kind of her mantle, I'm not sure what she's up to in this reality, or if she exists. If you know more about Kate Kane here, please share with me in the comments. I'd love to learn more. I tried to do some research on that and I was like, I can't find anything, so I'm assuming Kate Kane is like, I feel nothing because I'm not here. Bye. Number 5. Damian Wayne. Probably one of the most powerful semi-natural born kids around, and definitely one of the most dangerous, is Damian Wayne. Damian is the son of Batman and sometimes villain, sometimes ally, Talia al Ghul. Depending on which story you were going with, his conception was pretty controversial, as it has been implied and interpreted mainly that Talia forced herself on Bruce in order to get pregnant with Damian. Damian also was only a semi-naturally born kid because he did not gestate in a womb, but instead was kind of like grown in a tube. He was raised initially by his mother, who then dropped him on Bruce's doorstep when he was around, I think, 8 or 10. Initially, he and his father didn't get along too great, partly because of Damian's spoiled attitude, and partly because, despite still being a kid, he was already a murderous, deadly assassin that had been raised mainly by the League of Assassins. So, you know, that's gonna be a problem. especially as, you know, Batman has a moral code and Damian initially didn't really have much of a moral code. He was like, what's wrong? I can just decapitate people, that's fine. Why is it a big deal? They're bad guys. Number 4, Jason Todd. Everyone's favorite son of the Bat has got to be Jason Todd, or at least a lot of people's favorite son of the Bat. If that's not you, that's okay, but I know there's a lot of Jason Todd fans out there, so like, show yourselves. I see you. Well, Jason Todd has come a long way since he was first introduced in the comics, back when we knew him by the nickname Jason J. Todd. When he originally appeared in issue 357 of Batman, his backstory was actually very similar to former Robin Dick Grayson. Of course, his backstory would be redone and it wouldn't be this anymore, but initially, in the New Earth continuity, Jason Todd was introduced as an orphan whose parents were both originally acrobats who had died. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Like Dick Grayson before him, Jason was taken in by Bruce Wayne and trained to become his new Robin. Bruce even seemingly adopts Jason in this version of the story, making him one of the Batman's adopted kids. And I think even in Prime Earth continuity we consider him an adopted kid, although I don't know if he's formally been adopted. Jason Todd now, however, has more of a challenging relationship with Bruce Wayne in the current Prime Earth continuity, due to the fact that he has no problem killing villains when needed, and often uses lethal force and firearms against them when he fights. Jason Todd is known for being one of the most gifted and brutal fighters in the DC universe. But Jason's not just a bruiser, he's also got a sharp mind as well, and perhaps even a bit of a magical power set since being revived in the Lazarus pits. There was also, I think for a time, we considered him to be immortal because of that, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. For those that want to be like, he's immortal! I don't know if that's true anymore, but it was a thing at one point that was implied. Number 3, Nightwing. While Dick Grayson is not born of Batman, he spent a good amount of time being raised by him and is actually an officially adopted child of Bruce Wayne's. After years of Dick being like an adopted son to Bruce decided to actually fill out the paperwork and finally make it official. So yeah, there's actually paperwork for this one, friends. Nightwing is one of the most powerful Robins, Bat family members, and sons of Batman around. He is a great all-around kind of powerful. Instead of dominating in one specific field when it comes to Batman's skill set, Nightwing does a great job of excelling sort of in all aspects equally. While some might think that this makes him weaker overall because he's not like a super big powerhouse in one area, I'd argue it makes him stronger overall as a character, as it means he has less weak spots in comparison to some of the other heroes, anti-heroes, and even villains in the multiverse who have trained under Batman. Nightwing is a great detective, fighter, acrobat, and he has a great heart, which is part of the reason he's such an amazing hero. Number 2, Cull. Cull is the daughter of Wonder Woman and Batman from the Dark Multiverse. We don't as of yet know what Dark Earth Cull hailed from, only that she was raised and trained by both her parents before she turned to the dark side, joining the Batman Who Laughs, who in turn served Perpetua. During the Dark Knight's death metal event, Cull ended up in a fight against Wonder Woman, who was amazed by her strength and her skills as a fighter. To read more about Cull and her badass self, you can check out Dark Knight's death metal Trinity Crisis, and I know that the Dark Multiverse is kinda gone, but I do hope we get to learn more about Cull and her backstory. I hope that's like not the only time we get to see her. She just seems like such an interesting character to me, and also I miss the Dark Multiverse. I just want more Dark Multiverse. Please, please. She ranks high on this list because due to her heritage, she possesses an Amazonian physiology like her mother. This means she is not likely someone that you would want to come up against in a fight. And she likely also possesses her father's enhanced intellect and sense of resourcefulness, making her an even more dangerous enemy to face. Also, it's really rare, I think, that Batman and Wonder Woman get together in realities and actually have kids. I feel like that's not usually a thing that happens, so she's a rare one. Number 1, Jarro. Jarro is probably the strongest child of Batman to have ever existed, at least obviously in my mind. When it comes to his potential for power, he could technically conquer the entire Earth if he wanted to. Fortunately, he doesn't want to. Jarro mainly wants to be a good son and become the best Robin ever in his father's eyes. He was grown by Batman from a tissue sample he'd had of Starro the Conqueror. Batman grew and raised Jarro himself, teaching him how to be a good alien starfish and a good hero. Jarro has teamed up with his dad before to help the Justice League, and there's almost nothing that he wouldn't do for Bruce. Due to his unique alien physiology, Jarro has a slew of powers available to him, the main one being telepathy and mind control. He's also heckin' smart, possessing genius level intellect. Plus, he's the cutest. Like, I'm just saying, if we're doing a top 10 cutest children of Batman list, or even the Justice League, cutest children of the Justice League, I think that Jarro would also end up at the top. Like, he's pretty cute. Just putting it out there.